But first, backlash building tonight over President Biden's end of the world rhetoric about Putin using nuclear weapons after he ran from reporters who asked about it. He made these comments off camera at a Democrat fundraiser earlier this week. Quote, "Think about it. We have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis." He went on to say he, meaning Biden, is not joking when he talks about the potential use of tactical and nuclear weapons. These comments alarming everyone. Then yesterday, he went after Putin again, this time over high gas prices in an awkward start to a speech about the economy.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not joking about that, as you know. I was able to bring gasoline down well over $1.60, but it's inching up because of what the Russians and the Saudis just did. I'm not finished with that yet.
Now, remember, he just tapped into our strategic oil reserve, again depleting it to a 40-year low after OPEC Plus decided to cut oil production to Biden's dismay.
The idea that Saudi Arabia would do this to harm the U.S. or to be in any way politically involved is absolutely not correct at all. With due respect, the reason you have high prices in the United States is because you have a refining shortage that has been in existence for more than 20 years. You haven't built refineries in decades. It's as a result of this shortage of refining capacity that you have a shortage of gasoline and an increase in the price of gasoline. It has nothing to do with the fundamentals of crude oil supply and demand.
So, listen, I think that's a fascinating comment, and I want to get to Joe Biden in a second. But, Jackie, first I want to go to you. You're like our resident energy expert. And so here you have the Saudis saying the issue with American gas prices is you've had a decline in refining capacity. But over the last couple of years, our refining capacity hasn't gone down. Our oil production has gone down, right?
It absolutely has. And under President Trump, remember that the oil boom is relatively new, right? So President Trump comes into office. He makes us the world's #1 oil producer, something we never thought we would see in our lifetime. Election is in November of 2016. December of 2016, Sean, that's when Russia decides we're going to join with Saudi Arabia and we're going to be part of what we call OPEC Plus. Interesting? Not really. Putin's sitting back. He's watching the dynamic. He sees President Trump in play, and he says he is going to expand capacity, and they're going to become #1. That's exactly what happened. What would have happened? We would have built more refineries to match our production and to keep the boom going. Then you have President Biden come in and say, I'm going to attack oil and gas. No oil company wants to build a refinery or anything else, and they stop investing. What's really interesting here, though, is the Russia-Saudi alliance, right? I agree with the minister. I don't think the Saudis are trying to harm us per se, but this is a business, and it's about supply and demand. It's about pricing. Russia's in a tough spot right now. It needs these prices to stay up.
Can I ask you a question
and
about that, Jackie?
Here we are.
But here, the Saudis don't really like Joe Biden, right? He went after them on Khashoggi hard. The Russians don't like him. Putin doesn't like him. So isn't it fair to go, listen, we don't like Joe Biden, and we know this is bad politics in the U.S. If prices rise, let's cut oil production by 2 million barrels
Absolutely.
a day.
And they never promised that they wouldn't do that or that they would support us or that they were worried about our gas prices. Quite frankly, they run their whole kingdom on their oil revenue. Yeah. When prices are high, it's a great thing for them. Putin needs prices high now, too. We're the ones suffering.
Jenna, what does this say about America or Joe Biden globally? When you have him, giving a speech where he's talking about, 2 words, made in America. Right. My count is that's 3 words. How dumb is that? But then, we have all this energy in America, and here he is going over to people that actually hate us. They don't like us, yep. And he's begging them to produce more oil. When here at home, he's doing the same thing the Saudis are doing. He's cutting oil production by way of his policies.
That's right. And Joe Biden has become the kid that cried wolf, but instead of it being a wolf, it's Putin, Putin, Putin. And to be honest with you, Joe Biden has failed in that leadership test, especially when it comes to this major issue that impacts most Americans. When we're talking about not just the price of oil, but just dealing with world leaders, they lost respect for us. They don't believe what we say anymore. And this statement that Joe Biden just made tells us all of that when the White House continues to walk back the statements that he make. We don't have a leader in the White House. We have a guy that's in a suit, an empty suit is what I would call it. 57% of Americans say in the last 6 months, the actions of the federal government have negatively impacted their lives on issues of concern to them. So that includes gas prices, inflation, the border, jobs. We're in a terrible situation right now. We don't have somebody that's going to lead us to victory. We got somebody that the Americans are doubting his mental capacity. So something needs to change change right away, and this isn't the guy, so I don't know what we're going to do.
And what's shameful is that the press in the last election was like, we need an adult in the room. We want to bring the adults back. And this is what you get with Joe Biden. I mean, it's a clown show. But I want to go to this, Lara. Nikki Haley, former ambassador to the UN, says Biden's rhetoric invokes fear unnecessarily. Take a listen.
Every time he speaks, it's just unproductive, because on one side, you're putting fear in Americans, which is not helpful, and it really questions his leadership. On the other side, if he knows Putin so well, he would know he should not be saying this is Armageddon, because Putin is hearing that. What he needs to do is have deterrence. When President Trump was in office, you didn't see these dictators doing this because there wasn't the weakness that we're seeing today.
Lara, is she right?
Oh, well, she's exactly right. You did not see any new wars started under my father-in-law's administration. It was peace through strength. People respected Donald Trump because he exuded strength. They didn't even want to try it. I actually interviewed my father-in-law recently on a podcast I have called The Right View. Knock on the view. It's The Right View. And I asked him about this. I said, what would you do if you were in this situation right now with Russia and Ukraine? How do you get out of this? What do we do at this point? And he said, first of all, this would have never happened had I been president. Whether we're talking about greenlighting the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, cutting off the Keystone XL pipeline, Jackie, as you just talked about, America's energy leadership around the world and our exportation. But he said at this point, you have to make a deal. At this point, between Russia and Ukraine, there should be somebody trying to make a deal. The Europeans have to come together, and something has to happen, because you can't continue down this path. And my question is, why haven't we heard any movement on that front from Joe Biden, from the White House? No one is talking about how to end this war in Ukraine, how to actually get out of this. And it's headed down a really scary path, I think, right now for a lot of us.
Instead, we keep just sending billions of dollars in aid over to keep it going on longer and longer and longer. Exactly. And you think Putin's going to help us with oil when that's happening and we're fighting a proxy war and funding it?
Yeah, exactly. And you think about the term Armageddon. I mean, I think a lot of us saw Russia invade another country, Ukraine, and we're like, listen, that we want to defend those who are invaded. And I think a lot of Americans were in favor of this. But now we step back and go, we're at the brink of Armageddon. We're at the brink of nuclear war. How far do you want to go? How far do you want to take it, Giano, to say, we could have global destruction if this goes much further? You need someone to actually go, let's cut a deal. Let's talk about it. Right. Let's not say we need regime change in Russia. Yeah. That's only going to back Putin into a corner.
And that's part of the reason why this midterm election coming up is so darn important, because we need adults in the room. We need to have the ability to stop some of the Biden actions, because he's really leading us into destruction. Here, you continue to pour out billions and billions and billions of dollars into the Ukraine when we need the help here. Honestly, I'm all for support of Ukraine, but we got to think about our country first and foremost. Countries around the world do not respect us anymore. We saw what happened in London, UK as an example, when the parliament was saying, hey, there's no leader in America anymore. This is a serious issue, and Joe Biden is simply not up for the job. We continue to see that time and time again, and the real issue here is right here at home. The press won't hold him accountable. Why is that? If Trump was in office doing this kind of stuff, they would be saying we need to go to the third impeachment, honestly.
Right, 100%. Well, it's interesting because you have Joe Biden making these offhanded, comments that are elevating the temperature. But he could do things that would actually put pressure on Russia without actually saying it, which is American oil and gas. Let's listen to what Larry Summers had to say about the Biden policy on oil.
Look, we made a mistake by canceling the Keystone pipeline. We made a mistake by slowing down all kinds of permitting activity. We made a mistake by being hostile as a country to natural gas.
Lara, this is not a right-wing conservative. This is the former economic advisor to Barack Obama saying these things about Joe Biden's policy.
Yeah, but it's obvious. It's obvious to anyone who is paying attention in any sort of way what is going on here. The reason that we have high inflation, the reason that we are in this situation, the reason, quite frankly, that Russia had the funding to go in and start this war in Ukraine, it all boils down to Joe Biden and his bad policies in day one in office, canceling the Keystone pipeline. Yeah. That's where it starts. And then it is a snowball effect. Of course, you see inflation going up because the Democrats are just dumping money out as fast as they possibly can with the high gas prices. There's no end in sight. Larry Summers is right. And this is no right-leaning conspiracy theorist by any measure.
But someone who just believes in good policy and understands that Joe Biden is hurting the average day, every middle-class American family with these policies. Well,
57% of Americans say the same.
You are so right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.